You probably heard that your lower abs are weak because of the tilt of your pelvis, and the back pain that you have is because of the tilt of your pelvis, and that you need to start flattening your back and working your deep abdominals a lot more. And the exercises you've probably seen or been recommended look like tucking your tail. Well, guess what? I'm here to tell you that is not the solution. Now, what I want for everyone to learn is that there's a difference between learning to move and mobilize your body in different positions, and there's a difference between the posture that your body lives in. So what I mean by living is how your body moves when you're walking around, at the shops, at work, bending down, at home, picking things up, just moving around. You want your body to be in a neutral position. So that means generally that our abdominals are going to be in a lengthened position. We're going to have a nice lumbar curve, and your glutes are going to be long. And only when necessary, like by the demand that we might put on our body, do we say, I want you to hinge, or I want you to curl, or I want you to be able to do all those things. That's relative to what we want to ask. But neutral, aiming for that, is called core stability. And that does not look like tucking, because this is a shortened position, this is a lengthened position. And a great example is when you walk, your arms are straight relatively. You're not walking around with tight biceps. And so the same thing here, your core, you're not walking around with a tight core. So these muscles are generally long when we're walking. So the same way your arms are long when you're walking. And long muscles, meaning like the behavior of them, are strong, healthy ones. Because more often than not, when people have back pain, weakness in their pelvic floor, or pelvic floor issues, or any other issue, they are often stuck in a compressed state like this. And you know what also happens when you're living in a position like this? Look at my chest. That's what ends up happening. And then wait, look at my neck. That starts to happen because the body's just trying its best to stand up straight and see, and it's got to counter everything. So when we let everything be long, look at that. Natural, relax. And also, I can breathe into my chest. My lower back has this natural curve. I just feel relaxed. Like, that is good. And what's also important to mention is when we are walking, our pelvis is going into a posterior pelvic tilt, and it's also going into an anterior pelvic tilt, depending on the step that we take. So the body's never living like this. It will go, the pelvis will move, but then it moves the other way. So knowing that your spine actually wants to be neutral, your abs are going to be neutral when you're in this position. And when I mean neutral, and when I mean in that lengthened position, that means that they're stabilizing you. They're stabilizing your whole core here. So from there, your whole body can move around. The same way my shoulders move around, the same way my pelvis moves. And I know this can be so confusing because everyone is showing exercises that flatten the lower back, and they tell you that the problem is that you are arching your back too much. But the actual problem is people just don't know how to handle pressure. They don't have control in a neutral position. It's like the main goal would be, how can we train our body to be stronger in a neutral position? But instead of showing that, everyone's just saying, oh, well, I'm going to just show you this alternative that just flattens everything and doesn't really teach you the skill that you really need for life. And it's like, if we're putting in effort to exercise, strengthen our body, strengthen our spirit, we need to be taught this in a positive way that works with our body shape. And so if we're going to be putting energy into our time of day to work out, to better our health, we want to be doing it properly, even if it's a little bit more difficult at first. It's so much easier to say, just round your back or just do this stretch. Like, come on, you're here for the real deal. You want to get better. So let's get to it. So the first thing I want to share with you is that when you are training, you are going to start to realize how often you are rounding your back as a compensation, literally. So, and I'm going to just share with you some really simple ways that so many of us are actually in a short tight position, and that's our slack off position. And if we actually try to put our position into more of a neutral, more length position, which is the harder one, which is what we want to achieve, it's going to blow your mind. So I'm going to just show you some really simple stuff. A great example is if you are sitting down. Most people, when they sit, do not feel the under butt area, that part where your hamstring and glutes just connect, that sit bone area. Most people don't feel that when they sit. When they're sitting cross-legged or on a chair, they're often tucked like that. Can you see? They're living in a rounded lower back position to begin with. So why do I want to tell someone, just keep rounding your lower back to solve your problems? Like, no. Like, yes, we want to have a availability in our body to move a particular way, but hey, we also want to have strength to be able to sit up straight, because this is requiring my spine to be strong, because it does deserve that, doesn't it? And for a lot of people who cannot sit like this, you take a block, you take a pillow, you take something, and you just put it under your bum, so you get more sensation and feeling, and it's gonna help you to be able to practice sitting up straight, feeling nice length in here. And notice how good your body feels when you feel that length. It's like an energy. It's like, fuck yeah, rather than this energy. Ugh, like what? Now, I'm gonna show you something else. People will say, I want you to tuck your tail because maybe some exercises require it. Like if you're doing an exercise like this, I'm compressing and I'm rounding my lower back here. So that makes sense. Or I'm here, I'm rounding as I roll like a ball, softening my lower back. Or if I do a cat-cow. And now I'll show you a few variations where some people start to become really fearful of their lumbar curve. And I don't want you to be fearful of this because it may not apply to you. In some cases, some people could be arching too much, but that arch is probably happening because of something else in their body. But this will give you a bit of hope and clarity to understand why we also have curves and why curves are also healthy. So if you go into a plank, sometimes people will say, make sure that your back is flat in a plank. But the thing is, when I'm neutral, as you can just imagine, if I was standing in this position, I would have that curve in my spine. So why would I not have that curve in my spine when I'm on all fours in this plank position? Again, my core is working in a lengthened position, but obviously there's a little bit more tension because, well, this is physically demanding, but it's totally different to that. Can you see that happening? Now I'm really putting a lot of pressure on my abdominal wall. Here, I am balanced. And this is actually extremely hard to do. But people fear that lower back because they think this lower back curve is that lower back curve. Can you see the difference to that, just normal, versus overdoing it? And so if you know that you're not slamming your hips down like that, then you know that you're okay. You essentially will feel supported. So just try that on yourself right now. Just try going into a plank and then collapsing and then go back to your normal self. You'll know if you were doing it. And then if you actually don't have control, then maybe you are collapsing. And I think that would be a better way to say it, like a collapsed position, rather than your back has too much of a curve. Because when we're collapsed, other things are going on as well. It's not just what's happening to the spinal curve, the chest is compressing, the head or neck is probably not in good alignment. So it really makes you think twice. We gotta be careful with the words that we're using. And for those of you who are feeling really stressed about the pelvic tilt, thinking that's causing all your problems, I'm gonna just share a little bit more light on that to make you think about this a little bit more holistically. So you're not just blaming your pelvis, and once we understand our whole body, it just shifts our perspective. So it might make you laugh going forward when you hear that the pelvic tilt position is the cause to your problems and you need to start tucking your tail to fix the problem, because what's actually happening when we're in this position is we're actually more in a closed position, a tight position in the back of here. And when we're more inside of this position, the way to free your butt to prevent this from happening is to actually stick out your tail, stick out your booty. The opposite to what we're being told. Tuck, 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 tuck. So, interesting, isn't it? And also this situation that's happening for somebody, if you really want to get down and nerdy, a lot of it is the perception. So how somebody is visually seeing the world. So their prescription of their glasses, that might be something to look into. Or they could have an injury, they could be pregnant, they could have bigger chest, they could have a bigger stomach. There could be a few different things contributing to that. And once those things are addressed or dealt with, that person's posture will actually shift, and that little bit of shift in posture will naturally change the angles and gradients in that body. So just telling someone to tuck is not necessarily going to do anything. And lastly, when people are living in a position like that, the chest is tight, the butt is tight, we gotta open up the chest, we gotta lengthen up the butt. So it just goes back to, hey, we gotta bring that curve in. And also, if you know anything about children development, one of the most important things is that lower back arch. kids, babies, we want them to have that lower back arch. So why would we as adults now want to stop having that lower back arch? The problem is not necessarily the back, the arch. There is other things inside the body that might impact somebody's posture and where they're gripping and holding tension. And last and final note, somebody's bodies are perfect, even if it's not textbook, or even if somebody says they need to do this or that. Your body is taking into consideration so many things, your visual system, your airway system, the curves all around it. So based off the curves of your neck, your thoracic cage, your lumbar curve is going to adjust to it. So some people will forever look a little bit more like one way because that is just their body structure. And that is that person's brain and body making the best plan for that person's body. So how dare I or anybody else say like, no, you need to get rid of that curve or you need to get rid of that. Like, your body has made a very sophisticated decision in planning all of that. Don't forget, not only do we have that, but we also have injuries, surgeries, trauma that's happened to the body. There are so many things. So to get somebody who's so worked up, especially in an area that so many people feel self-conscious in, around that lower tummy area, we gotta be careful. All right, till next time.